For those of you who don't know, Peter is the person and the company that supplies the coffee that we get to enjoy here every week with Solai Coffee. And so we want to learn a little bit more about Peter and what he does. So, take that.
You did really mean putting people on the spot.
That's exactly right. See, if you were here earlier, I would have given you some questions beforehand.
Okay.
But I didn't. So tell us about yourself, where you're from, and what's your background, what got you into the coffee business.
Okay, my name is Peter Kuria. I am a farmer, second generation farmer, born and raised in Kenya. My parents are still farming coffee. They've been doing it for 43 years. And I started Solai Coffee as an import company based here in Orlando, Florida, which is a link to the consumers of coffee in the US and the producers of coffee in Kenya. So we have a direct trade business. And you asked why I got into coffee.
Yeah, what got you into it?
It's fate. I was born and my dad was already farming coffee. Exactly. But I'm in the business by choice.
And how long have you been doing this, and what kind of corporate structure do you have?
So this is our third year since we started importing coffee, and we have an LLC that is registered here in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, but we distribute coffee across the 50 states.
All right. And is it just you, or do you have employees? Kind of what's your corporate structure look like?
I have a business partner who is based in Minnesota, so he pulls some load over in the Midwest. And I also have 5 employees and 2 volunteers and a mentor, Shan.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly. And so what's kind of walk everybody here through, like the kind of initial process of plucking the beans off the plants to getting it to here.
Okay, so I usually compare coffee to 2 products that we all know of, oil and gold. Those 2 products take a lot to get to end of a product that can be usable. Coffee is the same. You plant the seed, you wait for 3.5 years to get your first harvest, and then that tree gives you an average of 7 years before it starts deteriorating, which means that you have to replenish it, like cut it and allow it to regrow so that it can give you coffee for long. So when you look at coffee, it's a business that involves a lot of people. You cannot do it alone, even if you try to mechanize it, like we see with the big estates like in Brazil. So it still has a lot of human element, which means you have to pull the community together. So it's a community-based product. And once you plant the coffee, it's a seed. So people say it's a bean, but it's actually a fruit which has a seed. And the seed is what we harvest from a cherry. We remove the outer skin, just like we eat the mango. There is an inner skin, right? There is a seed inside the mango. So that is dried, and then it's hulled now to expose the seed, which we now roast. And the roasting process is a caramelization process where you are that's where the science comes in. You're bringing all the different components of what the bean can offer. So you hear people saying this bean or this coffee from Guatemala tastes this way versus African coffees. Roasting is a very important aspect. From light roast to dark roast, you're going to experience a spectrum of different things because of the heat and the sugars that are in the coffee.
And which one of those 3 roasts has kind of explained light, medium, dark as far as caffeine content and flavor?
Okay, so that's a good question because
people. I know, you educated me well.
So when it comes to caffeine, coffee produces caffeine. The coffee plant produces caffeine as a way of repelling against pests. So we have 2 main varieties of coffee, Arabica and Robusta. Arabica is grown at very high altitudes, very difficult to grow, low yield, high quality. That's what we farm in Kenya. And then we have Robusta that grows in lower altitude areas and produces a lot of caffeine. So you get more yield because it's not prone to pests and diseases. Robusta has double the content of caffeine versus Arabica. So when it comes to roasting, there are two components that come into play. If a lot of us just brew coffee by, scooping and putting it in your drip coffee maker, and that is it, right? But if you're using the scale, it doesn't matter whether you are brewing a light roast or a dark roast, the caffeine content is going to be the same so long as the mass remains the same. The more you roast coffee, the more you lose the moisture content in the bean. So if I was to take like this cup and fill it with a light roast, and the same size cup with a medium to dark or a dark roast, the weight is going to be different. The darker roast is going to has lesser mass, so it's lighter. So if you are to brew that cup the same way, you're going to get more caffeine content from the lighter roasts than the dark roast because you had more mass in the smaller cup. So caffeine doesn't matter. What matters is the mass. But the lighter roasts have more elements of the farm versus the dark roast. The more you roast coffee, the more you lose the elements of the farm, but you start introducing new components of like chocolates and oils, so you get that body. But they say the lighter roasts are more earthy. The medium is, a combination of the work of the farmer and the work of the roaster.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Me, I think of it like cooking a steak, rare to well done.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is it that gets you up out of bed every day to go do what you're doing?
Purpose. I feel I got into coffee, and my dad or my parents involved us a lot in the business. When I was young, it was a chore. As I grew older, it became part of my success. Because my parents would ask me, do you want to go to the farm or you want to stay home? The answer would be followed by, if you stay home, then you're not going to school in January. So that's when I understood that I really need to work the farm so that I can create a future. That is the same story for a lot of people or a lot of children who are raised by coffee producers or any other farmers. We struggled a lot. And I didn't understand how much coffee costs until I came to the US in the cup. So Kenya consumes a lot of tea. We don't drink coffee. Funny enough, we produce the best coffee in the world, but we drink mostly Nescafe and Nestle. So when I came here and I saw the difference in price, that's when I knew that we are struggling for no reason. Then I started identifying where the leak was, and I realized it was in the value chain. The people in between make the most money, and that's why our parents are forcing us out of the farm so that we can get better jobs and not come back to the farm, versus advising us to go to college and do courses or study things that are going to help them come back to the farm and modernize the way we farm. So my purpose is helping people in these communities, specifically starting with my community, Solai, so that they can get direct business that gives them a fair share of what they produce. That way they can be able to reinvest back to the farms, reinvest in the community, and at the same time create job opportunities and increase livelihood, better livelihood in the communities. Yeah. So I wake up every day thinking about those people who are working at the farm, do not have an avenue to create generational wealth for their families, because the average age of a coffee farmer right now is 65 years. And the kids, if they come back, they're taking into their retirements of their parents. But if we have an ideal market, everybody can be able to make money at the farm, continue farming, increase the yields, because at this point, we are at risk of losing this product. Yeah, that's why you see the prices going up, because the supply is going low and the demand is higher. Yeah.
And just so you know, Peter, his family, they work with how many farmers around?
Right now, we are working with 3 farmers. We have an association. All we need is to get an outlet. So we have access to about 600 metric tons of coffee, which means like 25-foot containers just from my community.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you ship the beans over, are you shipping the whole cherry, or have you stripped that down and you're just shipping the seed?
They only allow you to ship the seed.
Okay.
Yeah, you cannot import it in a way that it can come and regrow here.
Okay.
Yeah, so we import the seed, and then that seed is the one that we distribute and roast locally here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That was my next
Yeah.
question. All right. So tell us what's your ideal client? Who are you trying to work with or get into right now to distribute and sell your coffee?
So we usually work backwards. We are looking for people who understand our mission and want to integrate with our mission. We are an impact-based business, so we don't only sell coffee, we also sell mission. So helping the local community in terms of schools, providing basic essentials to schools. So we look for businesses that really understand what we are doing for the community, not specifically us. As much as we are in business, we want for them to realize that our prices are based on cost of production and what it takes to run a business sustainably. So local roasters, big, small, we have enough coffee here. And if we don't have it here, we have a lot of access to coffee in Kenya. Coffee shops too, because we roast coffee. So if you go to your favorite local coffee shop, ask them whether they know where their coffee comes from. Most of the time they do not. They will tell you they bought from this importer and it's Kenyan, but they don't know the place or the people who farm it. And you can tell them, I have a secret for you. I know a guy who is a farmer, runs a business, and also helps the community.
That's perfect. Now, are you working primarily locally in Florida, or are you national? Kind of where's your territory right now?
I am national. I get calls from all countries, not just the US. And it depends. If someone is calling me from Dubai or UAE, I will refer them to the other side of the business because it's easier for the coffee to come directly from Kenya. So we work with anybody, but primarily my business here in Florida focuses on the US and Canada.
Okay, that's awesome. Does anybody have any questions?
Why the name and what does it mean?
So Solai is the village where I was born and raised, and when I was at a decent age of curiosity, I asked my dad, what does Solai really mean? And he told me in our native language, it means a place of many trees. I forgot about that until I was looking for a name for the brand. And I remembered my dad mentioned a place of many trees. What does it do? It gives you joy. It's a place you go to rejuvenate when you're taking your hike. And I was like, what does coffee do? Coffee brings us joy. So when I went to Google and I Googled Solai, I saw that in the English dictionary, it means the goddess of joy. In India, it means blossom, or that season of blossoming. So I was like, a name that brings joy and pays homage to my community where I was born and raised. And that's how we ended up with Solai.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sean?
I know Peter and his wife, amazing. They're very well educated, by the way. Okay, they get a full-time job in engineering job. They want to. I know their parents also. Coffee is a very, very tough business. When you put in the seed, by the time I drink it, it has to go to 16 different steps. It takes 3 to 7 years. Think for a minute. Okay? So it's a very complex thing. Every touch point is a risk. This business is to managing risk profitably, so that his parents can have a lot of money there. That's his job. So they can grow as much coffee as you want. They can grow his ability to make sure they can get a lot of return for that. That's what I decide to do. So I'm sorting the business model for cutting down all the risks and coming up with a way to get this. We have a lot of good ideas. We'll share with you in the next couple of months. We're going to notice. He is supposed to work for what we call a mission. Vision is clear. His North Star is clear. We're working on it almost every day on that. So I think we can make it happen so that we can get an amazing coffee of the way you want to, when you want to, where you want to. Can do it.
Perfect. Any growth projection, how fast you want to grow, where you want to grow into? Or is it just one-man show right now?
With the resources, first I wanted to focus on creating a foundation of impact because I didn't want to grow too fast and lose the meaning of coffee, like many businesses do, right? And I don't blame them. So creating the organization back in Kenya was a way of us knowing that we can get the volumes that we need. If we were approached by, let's say, for example, Starbucks and say, we need 5 containers, can you get them to me next year? So we already have farmers that are farming together so that we can create consistency. But every year we try to bring about 15,000 metric tons. That's what we are kind of pushing right now and creating the teams slowly to expand as we go. The biggest challenge we have is that Kenya, being the best coffee in the world, our government hasn't really marketed it well. So that burden lies on our shoulders.
Another big problem is, we talked about this the last time, that your own people are not drinking coffee, they're drinking tea.
Mm-hmm.
It starts there, I mean, you have to believe in your beer and your wine or whatever you produce, so the rest of the world can, look up to and say, yeah, those guys are doing it, let's give it a try.
Yeah.
I think that's a big challenge.
Since we last spoke, it's really improved. I just had a friend call me and tell me everywhere I go, is it a car wash, a salon, there's an espresso machine. So that's a good sign.
Yep.
Yeah.
I lived in West Africa for 3 years, so I compliment you on the ability, because I know how challenging Africa is. The good news about people not drinking coffee is that it's kind of under the radar as well. Because then you get into a situation like Mexico has the avocados, and then the Traficantes take over the avocado trade. So I know that you're doing a great job. Congratulations. Are you teamed with any big university, anybody? Do you have any backing? Because I know that my daughter goes to Brown, for example. When you have a university, it's also a safety factor for you, because when people start realizing that you're doing so well, you then have to worry about your crops and keeping them safe and all of that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, so right now the big organizations that we have teamed up with are nonprofits that are actually helping us with the community-based projects. I'm in conversations with Texas A&M that just launched a coffee research institute in the US to help South America and Africans. So we are in conversations. They are focusing right now on South America, but they said once they are ready, they want to help the farmers in Africa, specifically Kenya and Rwanda. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to know at 15, I think you said 15 million metric tons. What kind of like bet would you get, or gross profit or revenue would that create if you get that number?
I think I meant access to the coffee that we have access to. It's 600 metric tons. So the margins actually very different based on where you are in the value chain. If I'm selling the coffee to a grain reseller, someone who is going to, we call the seeds grain beans. So if I'm selling it to a grain bean reseller, the profit margins are usually between 15 and 30%. When I go to the roaster, the profit margin is about 30 to 45. When we put the coffee in the packages, that's where you see the growth. But at the same time, it's a very small margin business because of the overhead. Because like Shan said, there is a lot of risk involved. Yeah, with every touch point, yeah.
Okay, so last couple questions. So if you could give your past self a piece of advice today with what you know, what would you tell yourself back then?
I would tell myself that I shouldn't have procrastinated too long to start this business, and especially on the farming side. I spent about 10 years in corporate doing software development, and I learned a lot of business. And I think I should have taken my experience and started advising my parents to run the business, the farming as a business. Like, we kind of started that late so that we can understand the cost of production. So procrastination, that was my my biggest downfall, I would say. If I had started this in 2017 versus 2021 after COVID, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then what can we as the First Orlando 1 Million Cups community do to help you?
Okay, so the easiest thing first is because you guys get to taste the coffee and experience it. We do not have a local shop, so a lot of people depend on other people who we can connect with physically at the farmers markets at 1 Million Cups. So if you guys can review us on Google, that really helps. And the second thing is when you visit that local coffee shop, you never know. They might be looking for Kenyan coffee, but Kenyan coffee is almost like a secret. People don't know who are selling it. Even the big importers, most of the time, they are just trading against each other because they don't have access to it. Majority of it goes to Europe. So tell them that you know a guy who is a farmer, who has a story and has lived the story. And one bonus that we are giving to coffee shops is coming out and giving them a 1-hour class, talking about coffee production, what it takes, and how to enjoy your coffee, thinking about the farmers. Yeah. Just like wine, you know, when you visit those, yes, and you experience the wine, it hits different, right? Yeah. Solai Coffee, S-O-L-A-I, and coffee.
And there's a
Perfect.
QR code next to the donuts that will take you to his review page.
Yes.
Perfect.
And I actually wrote, please, 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 because a lot of people, if you, it means a lot. A lot of people don't experience Kenyan coffee. I do events and I ask, the first question I ask is, do you know where your coffee comes from? And 9 out of 10, they don't. The second thing is, have you ever tried Kenyan coffee? They're like, Kenya? Where's Kenya? You know? So you guys have experienced Kenyan coffee, so you can be, you know, an advocate or an ambassador for us in that way.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Appreciate it.